It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman. I am here with two of our seminarians, Spenser St. and Mark Hellinger. One who has been studying in Rome for how long, Spenser?
I've been over there for about 3 years now.
Okay. And one who is negative how many days to go into Rome?
I think it's...
15.
Oh, this watch is wrong. It's I'm leaving on the 17th.
It's a 15.
So it's 15 days, yeah.
15 days. Are you excited, nervous, scared?
Sure, all of the above.
Yeah. What are you most excited about?
Not being on the flight anymore.
Do you not like to fly? Or?
I don't mind flying. I just don't like confined spaces for a long period of time. And it's just always, it's tiring and exhausting. So I like to be wherever I am going. I'm not a journey person. I'm a destination person.
Spenser, how many times have you done the flight back
Made that journey? Too many times. Well, for our first 2 years, we're not normally allowed to come home because of how the program's set up there. They want us to spend a summer in Europe or doing missionary work either in like China or India. So really for that first 2 years, I didn't come home except for some medical needs. And so I've been back and forth just a handful of times.
Okay.
When I went over last summer, there and back, and then 2 different times for medical things. I tore my ACL last October, so I didn't want Italian doctors working on my knee, and Bishop and Father Andrew very graciously brought me home. So that was good.
Everything back up and running?
Not running yet, but we're working for it. So,
okay.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be better by the Cupertino Classic.
There you go.
And that's my
Priorities.
main goal. Exactly.
Right.
That's my training goal. So
will you be back for Cupertino Classic?
Hopefully. So along with that, deacons and priests are allowed to come home at Christmas or Easter.
Okay.
So long as their bishop gives them an assignment. So hopefully Bishop will call me home and have me on an assignment this year.
For those that don't know about Cupertino Classic, Seminarians versus the priest, basketball, always a great time. Do we have a date for this year?
Fun.
I know the date, but I don't know it
it's always
right off the top of my head. It's been set.
Christmas
it's at
break.
Bishop DeWanger. Yeah, it's either the 27th or 28th.
Okay.
But I don't want to definitively say. Okay. I'm not involved in the planning anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You've always been having the force that makes
leaving now.
Yeah.
We handed it off to more competent men. So.
Fair enough. All right. So first of all, you guys this summer, your summer assignments are actually flip-flops of last year's summer assignments.
That is right.
Can you explain what the summer assignment is? And was this intentional? Like, let's get the Rome guys like in these different parishes?
As far as the reasoning why, we aren't necessarily made privy to that. It's all up to, I think, Bishop and Father Andrew talk and agree on where we go. But last summer, I was at St. John the Baptist in Fort Wayne.
And I was at Queen of Peace in Mishawaka.
And then now we switched this year.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun just like talking about, life at the parish and things like that, and being able to share stories now from each of them and having an understanding of what's going on.
Right.
Which I imagine is just a foreshadowing of what's to come of you guys having this kind of inside joke of studying in Rome.
Yeah.
Which begs the question of what is the purpose of studying in Rome? It seems like we usually have one seminarian studying in Rome. I know Father Royce.
Yep.
Gregerson was studying over there. I'm not sure who else has studied.
We had another seminarian over there for a couple of years, Dan Davis, and then he discerned out.
Okay.
It's really just been the 3 of us.
Okay. So what is the purpose of taking one seminarian and separating him from the group and not going to Mount St. Mary's and studying over in Rome?
It's multi-layered.
Yeah.
As you could say.
That's true. One of the first thing is just the different degrees that we have the opportunity to earn. The first 3 years we work on what's known as the STB, the Bachelor in Sacred Theology. And that's kind of what the guys back home do in 4 years. So we compress it down into 3. And then we start on what's called the licentiate, which is a more focused degree in theology and allows us to come back and be able to teach. So I think Father Royce was going to teach something in moral theology, possibly at St. Francis this past year, but I think something fell through on that. But yeah, so it allows us to either teach at a university, back at a seminary, things like that.
Okay.
And then also just to be a more focused point within the diocese. Like if priests have a question about, end of life issues, they could call Father Royce or something like that.
Because he has this extra education.
Yeah, exactly.
Specialty.
I suppose also it just kind of brings in a different perspective, a different idea of the universal church to be able to have some priests in the diocese that have experienced Rome. I know actually another person that has studied in Rome, Bishop Rhodes.
Yes. Yep. So, yep. I think among our presbytery, at least who have gone through the North American College, it's just been Bishop Rhodes and Father Royce.
Okay.
And then Mark and I will be the next ones in that.
So then, at what point do you learn Italian?
Right at the beginning.
I'll take that one.
What is your skill level of Italian right now, Mark Hellinger?
Twice subpar. So
Okay.
I've been doing a little bit of dabbling in the language, but
When did you start?
probably December, doing a few things.
When did you find out you were going over there?
In October.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was in the middle of a very heavy semester academically, so I just thought I don't have time for this right now.
Right.
But then in December, I started doing a couple different exercises to get it going. But then when I get there, so I'm going early. I'll leave on the 17th, and I'll arrive and go to Assisi to study language for about 5 weeks. And then I'll go back to Rome and study more Italian until Spenser is ordained a deacon.
Which will be
September 27th over at St. Peter's Basilica.
So your kind of classmates
Yeah.
have already been ordained deacons.
Yeah, so Deacon Jose Arroyo and Deacon Dan Neeser are my classmates for priestly ordination in June, God willing. And so they've already been ordained back here. And since I'm over there, we have the opportunity to be ordained in St. Peter's Basilica at the altar of the chair. And so Bishop and I had talked, and we kind of agreed that we would just follow what Father Royce had done in the past. And so I'm going to be ordained over there.
So who does that ordination?
It's a different American prelate each year.
Okay.
So last year, I think we had Bishop Checchio of Camden, New Jersey, originally from Camden, now Bishop of Metuchen. And this year we have Cardinal DiNardo from Galveston, Houston coming over.
Yeah.
So
excellent. And so I know Father Andrew Budzinski is planning on going over for that and taking a trip as well.
Yeah, he has a pilgrimage group coming over, so there will be at least 50. And I think among the presbytery, we have a number of priests who are coming over as well. So we should be about 60 to 70 people over there.
All right. Well, I want to hear more about how Rome has either met expectations, exceeded expectations, maybe some things, some surprises that came along the way, partially from my own curiosity, but also we'll fill in Mark here a little bit. What to expect when he's going over to Rome. We'll do it on air.
Perfect.
Yeah, there we go. So we'll learn more about Rome, studying in Rome from our seminarians, Mr. Spenser St. Louis and Mark Hellinger, coming up here on the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio. This is Kyle Hyman. I am here with two of our seminarians, Spenser St. Louis, who has spent the past 3 years studying in Rome, and Mark Hellinger, who is just about to spend how many years studying in Rome? 5.
Yeah.
So in, what did you say, 15 days?
Yep.
You go over to begin your 5-year stint studying in Rome.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you're a little bit nervous, a little bit excited, a little bit of everything. You'll go over there. You'll start by learning Italian because the classes are all taught.
Just about all of them are in Italian.
Well, so Spenser and I are being sent by Bishop to the Gregorian University, and the Gregorian University teaches in Italian.
Okay.
There's a couple other universities that teach in English.
Okay.
But Bishop has determined the Gregorians for us, so
Throwing us in the deep end.
learn in Italian.
How does that help you or hurt you with Spanish?
Well, one of the first things is that, like, my classmates, at least Dan Neeser, went down to Guatemala for a summer to learn Spanish, and I didn't have that opportunity because that summer was basically spent over in Italy. And so that's one of the first things. And then just because of how similar the languages are, it can really throw off anything that you may or may not have already had.
Yeah, I suppose a little bit of the similarities would help you.
Certainly, yeah.
But also, you could also be confusing.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people, they know Spanish very well. Like when they go over to Italy for vacation or pilgrimage, they'll start speaking in Spanish, and then the Italians will understand and reply to them in Italian, and they'll be able to understand. So like they're close enough that you can get by, but if you
I think that was described at Pentecost.
Yeah, exactly.
They were speaking their own language.
Exactly.
When I was in high school, we did through the Boy Scouts, we did a little trip to DC, and we ended up camping next to this group of Italian scouts, and we thought we were clever because we were speaking to them in Spanish, and they were understanding, and they were doing exactly that. They were responding. We're just like, yeah. I have no idea what you're saying.
So is that first day of classes, you've had some Italian, kind of like a thrown in full like just dive in and learn Italian before taking your first class?
About 2 months worth.
Is that first couple days of classes just a little overwhelming? Learning theology or philosophy, I don't know what you're taking. In Italian.
Yeah, it's definitely overwhelming.
You're like translating and trying to understand this at the same time.
Yeah, the first day is overwhelming. The last day is overwhelming. I mean, it's still all overwhelming because
there's a theme.
Exactly. Some of the professors are from Italy proper, and so like they're just going off 100 miles a minute. Where some of them are from either Germany or from America, and so they're also using Italian as their second language, and so they'll speak a little slower, a little more clear. Sometimes throw in English words in there. One of my favorite professors would use "meanwhile back at the ranch" as one of his favorite phrases, and so that was just a lot of fun. Anytime he would bring that up, or just bringing in all these different American references, so it's a lot of fun. So you try to keep up as best as you can, but at the Gregorian we also have a note system that helps us keep up with the classes when we're falling behind. So
a note system,
yeah. So this is basically all of our extremely fluent Italian speakers are taking notes in class diligently, and then we pass them on to redactors who take the last year's notes and this year's notes and combine them so that we have like an over-encompassing understanding of what the class is trying to teach. And then we use those to study off of for all of our exams.
And that's all in Italian?
In English, thankfully.
Oh.
Yeah, because that's just something we have at the North American College. Okay. So we're working alongside each other. And we keep that very, very closely guarded, so it's not being dispersed throughout the entire class of like 130 who are coming from different places and things like that. So it's kind of like our own little project that we're working on. So
what will be some of the first classes that you take, Mark?
I believe I'm supposed to take Greek.
Yep.
But I found out through a friend that they worked on something. I don't know. Maybe Spenser will tell me this is wrong because all my hope will be crushed. But they said something about working out where we can learn Greek in English.
Yes.
Praise the Lord.
I was going to say learning Greek in Italian.
Yeah.
It was slightly intimidating. The thought was slightly intimidating.
Yeah. So they do offer at the Gregorian and then also at the North American College. Now we just got the accreditation for being able to have Greek and Hebrew in English. So when my first 2 years, we didn't have that option. It was just established this last year. So my Greek was in English, but then my Hebrew, the English teacher was not the best teacher. So I ended up taking the Italian Hebrew because the teacher was just a lot better at teaching. So it was a little more of a difficult and a little struggle, but it was definitely the better decision in the long run.
And then what are some things, maybe some advice that you would give to Mark, but that we can kind of learn a little bit about this experience? Some things that you weren't expecting whenever you went over to Rome, maybe some surprises, some things that didn't go quite as planned, or some things that were harder than you expected, or easier, or more fun, or less fun than you were expecting.
Definitely. One of the best bits of advice that was given to me was just like being able to fully take advantage of the opportunity over there. So like getting out into the city, that's one of the best things about being in Rome is the history that's there. Of not only like the secular world, but also the church. Every street has a church on it, and most of those churches have saints in them. So like St. Philip Neri is right down the road from where we live.
Like so literally the bodies of the saints are
exactly.
there. Yeah.
Not just like a little bit of a relic in a reliquary, but like the full out tomb.
Yeah.
And so like being able to take advantage of being in the city of Rome, seeing these saints, praying with them, going over to St. Peter's to do a holy hour, things like that. But then also we're given the opportunity to travel every once in a while throughout Europe. And so being able to take advantage of that and go and see St. Wenceslas over in Prague, or being able to travel up to London and just like experience the culture there as well. That was one of the best bits of advice, just to get out of the walls of the North American College, to see the city and ultimately the rest of Europe. A couple different things that I wasn't really expecting was just the amount of fraternity that we have over at the NAC, because a lot of us are in smaller groups from our diocese. Like I was the only one there for 3 years. There's a couple of dioceses that have one or two guys. And so like really being able to come together and to share our experiences of our diocese back home and to get to know the United States a little bit better and the natural beauty that we have here back home.
Yeah. What's something that you're looking forward to the most, Mark? Have you been to Italy before?
No, I have not. I've
not been to Italy at all.
No.
Now you're going to be committed
there.
15 days.
5 years.
So I think the thing I'm looking forward to the most is definitely being in Rome, kind of what he was describing of just being in the culture.
Yeah.
and kind of in the culture of the church and the church's history, it's always fascinated me. So it'll be cool to be able to kind of live it and kind of build up those experiences. So hopefully one day, Lord willing, if I'm like preaching about St. Philip Neri, I can talk about, him and actually kind of have an intimacy with him that's unique.
Yeah.
So,
well, I will mention this. We are actually in the process of getting all the information up online about a pilgrimage that Redeemer Radio is taking to Rome. Father Tom Shoemaker, who's on earlier this morning, is going to be the spiritual director for that trip. Oh. And so hopefully they could meet up with you when you're over there. For people that want information about it, just email travel@redeemerradio.com, and we'll make sure to get you that info whenever it's available. I think there's some brochures already available here at the station.
Wonderful.
But it seems like you're also kind of missing out on some things that are happening in the diocese or happening at the seminary here in the United States. Is there a little bit of kind of feeling left out by being separated from the diocese?
There can be, especially around Easter and Christmas, I think, just because as a seminarian, that's when you're very active because you're back home on breaks normally. Whereas over there, you don't get to come home for those breaks every year. And so just one of the funny stories that I can think of is one of our seminarians, Mike Ammer, entered the same summer that I went over to the North American College. And so we didn't actually get to meet until he was already 2 years in. So the first time we met, we were kind of like joking with each other, thinking that the other one didn't actually exist, or like, because we hadn't actually met each other, that just the other one wasn't a real person. So that was a lot of fun, just having that relationship kind of based off that first initial joke. But it is a real thing. Just you do miss out on the different summer assignments, being home and sharing time with the guys, hanging out at the different seminaries. So it's really good to be able to have someone coming over and having another guy from Indiana in the house. Yeah.
We talked about timelines and things like that. And again, Mark Hellinger's leaving in 15 days, spent 5 years studying in Rome, and seminarian Spenser St. has been over there for 3 years, and you have
2 more years.
2 years to go.
Yep.
But you will be ordained a priest before the end. Tell me how that works.
Yeah, because we're working on a licentiate, it's a 5-year program instead of the 4 back home, but I'll still be ordained after the 4th year. So I'll come home next June and be, God willing, ordained by Bishop Rhodes along with Deacon Dan and Deacon Jose. And then I'll have a short summer assignment somewhere in the diocese as a priest.
Okay.
And then I'll go back to Rome as a priest for that first year. And then I'll finish up that degree, come home, and then be permanently assigned to a parish.
And I think Father Royce Gregerson did that same thing.
The exact same thing.
So is that just how everybody does it?
Typically, there's a couple of dioceses that won't send back for the 5th year. So they'll have their guys start the degree and then bring them home for their public ministry back in the diocese. And then maybe they'll send them back to finish up the degree.
At a later point.
Huh. Yep.
It's not something that you could do remotely or something.
No.
I'll just take these classes online.
There's a couple, like for canon law, some of the credits will transfer back to the Catholic University of America in D.C., but for the most part, you go back.
So at the end of this, will you be a canon lawyer?
No, my second degree will be in dogmatic theology at the Angelicum. So thankfully, that's the university that offers a lot of English. So all my classes next year will be in English.
Well, good. One of the things that you mentioned, not only with your summer assignment being very soccer-oriented, but also the soccer event, some may call it football, that happened over in Rome. Can you tell me about that?
Certainly. There's an annual soccer tournament between the different seminaries, and the Gregorian University puts forward a team. It's called the Clericus Cup, and it takes place at the Pius XI Sports Arena overlooking St. Peter's. So we're at these soccer matches, I think. And I'm not a huge soccer fan, but when you're over there, you have to indulge in the culture.
Rome.
Exactly, right. So we're at these different tournament games, and we're watching this soccer match of various levels of skill. Because for seminarians, it's not always athletic.
Sure. High intensity, low skill.
Exactly.
Always.
So we're watching these games, and then in the background is the Dome of St. Peter's. So it's just like being able to have these moments of fraternity on the field or as a spectator, but then also to remember where we are and the opportunities that God's graced us with and gifted us with. But this past year, the North American College actually did really well in our tournament. We ended up winning it in a shocking game. I believe it went to penalty kicks because it was tied 1-1, and we ended up winning 4-3 on the kicks. So it was a lot of fun. We went nuts, and the crowd was just crazy. So it was a lot of fun.
Had you not been injured, would you have been playing?
No,
Okay.
I grew up playing baseball, so I don't understand
Doesn't
soccer.
translate.
Yeah, running for 90 minutes doesn't sound fun to me. So I like the short sprints between bases.
So, Mark, you are heading out in 15 days, but you've already shipped some of your stuff over there?
Yeah,
How does
basically
that work?
everything that I am not currently using, which consists of a lot of black and a few shorts, is all in the mail currently. Basically, you just box everything up, and then you have to, for customs, you have to declare every item in each box and an approximated value, which was very interesting to look at everything you own and think,
How much are these socks worth?
is anyone really going to want to buy this? Does this really have any value? Right. But that's fine. So a lot of things ended up being worth $1 because that's the minimum. So yeah, you do that and then ship it all out and just watch the tracking as it moves towards Rome, which is interesting because it takes a long time. I don't know what's wrong with the Italian mail system, but there seems to be a great many problems. But yeah, so it's great. It'll get there soon.
Well,
hopefully.
I appreciate you guys both joining us here, and it's been good to get to know what's going on over there. And a reminder that we do have, now 2 seminarians studying over there to keep them in your prayers, and I'm sure there's hardships and things that go along with that. Any last words that you have for people listening?
Oh, man.
Yeah, I think first off, just keep not only Mark and myself, but all of our seminarians in prayer. The school year is just like any other school, so it can be difficult and riding the roller coaster of up and down, and so prayers are always accepted and greatly relied on.
And know we pray for you.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us today, and thank you again for responding to the call of discernment in the seminary. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kyle.
And look forward to hearing more as things advance, and maybe people can join on the pilgrimage and visit you over there.
Yeah.
Again, information for that can be found at redeemerradio.com. Actually, it's not up there yet, but if you email travel@redeemerradio.com, we'll get you that info. Our thanks to Notre Dame Federal Credit Union for underwriting this show. And until next time, remember to leave room for the Holy Spirit.